for Monday, October the 5th, 2025. For the record, all of our we have 6 counselors joining us today in person at our council meeting and 2 joining us online. So we have a full council meeting tonight. We're going to discuss the agenda item tonight is the 2026 proposed budget presentation, and we're pleased to welcome all of our senior staff to our meeting tonight and our visitors and guests that are joining us. So thank you all for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Goff, because we're not. We're going to go to, we have some, we started our study sessions and meetings with public comment, and we have one person that has come today to talk to us on public comment. And Ben, if you would come to the podium, please introduce yourself. I'm not going to try your last name, but introduce yourself and tell us whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and you must be speaking on agenda item number 1, because that's the only one we're doing. And you'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
Wonderful. My name is Ben LaRue. I am the president of the Wheat Ridge Football Team Booster Club, the Fighting 43s. I am here today because we have applied last year for the community fund that you give out to all the nonprofits. And this year we applied but didn't get the grant for that. And you know what, it was which is fine. All the other things that you guys give money to are very, very good causes, and I don't blame you for giving them to them. But we've had we have a lot of kids at our school that, especially on the football team, that are below the standard of poverty. And we as parents, you know, there's about 2/3 of them that are below poverty level, and then the other third of us have to make up the difference for like team dinners and all that other stuff that we try to fund to help these students out in playing football. Like they go in the summer months to Greeley. We have a grant program. It costs $250. And we try to take the whole team, whether they have money or not. I've seen some great things come out of the football program. We had one young man who's a little rough around the edges, came from separated home. Probably would not have been a college applicant if it hadn't been for football. He just last year got a college scholarship to University of Nebraska in Kearney because of football. And, you know, it's those small little efforts that we try to do to get them out, get them exposed to colleges, whether it be 7-on-7 in the summer or whatever. I've been a volunteer here in Wheat Ridge. I don't live in Wheat Ridge. I live in Edgewater. And I've been volunteering. I did I-9 football coach for Flag. I coached basketball at Manning. I've worked at Stevens Elementary there as a president of the PTA. I was the treasurer way back when, and you know, we had Ed Perlmutter and Compass Construction who helped us along the way. And I got started with the backpack program there as president, sending backpack full of food to kids. And, you know, one of the things I realized as president is that we were raising money, A, for the carnival, but B, also for the librarian. We had a new librarian who came in and realized that there was no books for young men.
Ben, your time is kind of running out, so
Okay.
if you would kind of...
I'm here
draw
to
a
ask
close here.
if there's any, thank you, if there's any extra money in the budget for us. It doesn't matter. We have a very expensive program. We pay a lot of money to a lot of different things, but if there's anything there that could help us, we'd love it for this year.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate you coming in and talking, hoping you're having a good season. You bet. Okay, that's all the speakers that I have signed up to speak, and no one has signed up online. So with that, I will turn the program over to Mr. Goff and your staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I think while everybody's still eating, there's plenty of food, so please get seconds if you want. We have, Cole's going to turn up a little surprise for you. We have a little primer on the budget. So sit back and enjoy your meal and listen to our podcast we created.
Community, showing priorities, and maybe where the financial tensions are.
Exactly. It's kind of the city's financial confession, you could say.
Yeah.
For 2026, they're projecting.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so you sent over the City of Wheat Ridge's 2026 proposed budget.
Yeah, it's a big stack of documents.
Right, and it's much more than just numbers, isn't it? It's like a roadmap for the community, showing priorities and maybe where the financial tensions are.
Exactly. It's kind of the city's financial confession, you could say.
Yeah.
For 2026, they're projecting total spending to hit about $101 million.
Wow, $101 million.
Yeah, and that money really tells the story of what they value, what they have to spend on.
Okay, so $101 million is the headline number. And I see it's broken down into like 4 main wallets or categories. Before we dive deep, can you give us a quick rundown of the biggest pieces?
Sure. Think of it like this. You've got your everyday spending money, and then you've got money set aside, like specifically for big long-term projects, often funded by debt.
Okay.
The general fund is the biggest slice, 53%, over half. That's your core operations, police, city staff, parks maintenance, keeping the lights on, basically.
Got it. And the other really big one, the 2J bond fund. That's 27%, a huge chunk.
That's right. That's the dedicated infrastructure money. The key difference is 2J funds come from debt that voters specifically approved.
Oh, okay.
So the city is contractually obligated to spend that money on specific major projects. Think big road rebuilds, corridor improvements, that kind of thing. Generational stuff.
And the rest, about 20%.
Yeah, that's split between capital funds, which is often more like pay-as-you-go infrastructure, and various special funds, which are restricted for very specific purposes.
Okay, so general fund keeps things running day to day. Bond fund builds the big future projects.
You got it.
So our goal here is to figure out how Wheat Ridge is juggling keeping those lights on, especially when, as you mentioned, their income seems tight while also spending big on the future.
That's the core tension right there.
Let's start with that tension. Stability versus strain.
Okay, but first, let's acknowledge the stability. They've actually done a pretty good job managing their finances overall.
Right. The reserves look healthy.
They do. They maintain strong reserves, which shows good fiscal stewardship. They've got a 17% unrestricted general fund balance that meets the gold standard from the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association.
Plus the required Tabor reserve.
Yep, the 3% Tabor Emergency Reserve. Plus, they've socked away another $1 million restricted just for future one-time costs. So, yeah, they're anchored.
That anchoring seems pretty critical because 2026 looks like, well, you called it a tension. I'm seeing maybe a budgetary tightrope walk.
That's a good way to put it. The main strain is definitely on that general fund, the day-to-day operations budget.
And why is that?
Well, fundamentally, general fund revenues. They're projected to be essentially flat compared to last year's estimate.
Flat. Wow. Why?
It really boils down to delayed private development. Things like building permits, related fees, some sales tax tied to construction. That's
Yeah.
usually a big driver for growing cities.
When that stalls.
The whole revenue picture kind of holds its breath.
That's-
Exactly.
So income is flat, but spending expenditures, they're projected to go up by 7%.
Yeah, a significant jump.
Is that 7% increase driven by like big new programs or initiatives, or is it something else?
It's mostly the cost of just maintaining, keeping the existing shop running.
Wow.
It's pretty much driven by 3 main, almost unavoidable costs. First, there's $430,000 in fees for that systems transformation project.
Okay, remind us what that is, the ERP system.
Right, the enterprise resource planning software. It's the city's new digital backbone, replacing old systems for permitting, tax and licensing, HR, finance, the works.
So it's a big tech overhaul.
Massive. It's a multi-year thing. And that 2026 cost is basically the fee to get these crucial new systems fully implemented. It's an investment, yeah, but it's a big bill right now.
Okay, what's the second driver?
Public safety investment. Specifically, $690,000 for expanded photo radar and traffic enforcement activities.
Okay, direct spending there. And the third? Probably no surprise.
Yep. The universal villain for any budget manager, rising employee healthcare costs.
Ugh, how bad is it?
The documents project premiums could jump by more than 10%. So, yeah, that 7% spending hike, it's essential modernization with the ERP, it's responding to traffic safety demands with the radar, and it's just covering the rising cost of the existing workforce. It's not really a splurge.
It sounds more like mandated spending.
Pretty much. And there's another complication here, making things even tighter. The city's financial safety net is shrinking.
You mean the federal relief money?
Exactly. The clock's run out on the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act money. That's $7.98 million total they got. It'll be fully spent by the end of 2026.
So that buffer, that source of flexibility for one-time things, it's gone.
Gone, which makes budgeting even harder going forward.
Do we know where that last bit of ARPA money, the roughly $500,000 for 2026, is going?
Yeah, and it's telling. It's focused entirely on critical social services. Things like homeless navigation support, funding for the community table food bank, mental health services.
So they're using the very last of that emergency federal money to help shore up support for the most vulnerable residents.
That's what it looks like, which, you know, makes the fact that the funding is ending particularly significant.
Okay, so the day-to-day picture is constrained. But clearly, the city isn't shying away from spending on the big picture stuff. Let's pivot to that infrastructure commitment. Nearly $40 million.
Yeah, it's a huge number. This is where the long-term strategic bet is really being placed.
It feels like a big gamble almost.
It is, in a way. They're aggressively using that debt capacity, relying heavily on those dedicated bond funds we talked about.
Betting that these huge infrastructure upgrades will eventually, kickstart that private development that's stalled out?
That seems to be the hope, yes. That improved roads and corridors will make Wheat Ridge more attractive for investment down the line.
So nearly $40 million combined, coming from capital improvement programs and those voter-approved bonds. Renewal Wheat Ridge, the two JNX chapter funds.
Right, all targeting mobility, safety, infrastructure, fixing up key corridors.
What are some of the specific visible projects moving forward next year?
Well, we're seeing the final stages of some major work. The budget talks about completing and formally closing out the Improved Wadsworth Corridor project.
Okay, wrapping that one up.
And at the same time, they're ramping up the planning and starting implementation for the next big one, the West 38th Avenue Corridor.
Got it. And I saw a pretty big number for non-car infrastructure too.
Absolutely. It reflects that push for multimodal access, making it easier to walk or bike. They've budgeted $7 million just for the Wadsworth Boulevard path, specifically the stretch from 32nd to 35th Street.
$7 million for a path. That's significant.
It really is a major investment purely in pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure.
And this investment in physical stuff is matched by the digital infrastructure push. Right, finishing that systems transformation project, the ERP.
Correct. Getting that new system fully up and running across all departments, permitting, finance, courts, HR, that's a huge priority. It's about moving away from, old paper files and clunky separate software.
To one integrated system for the future.
Exactly. Built for the next decade, hopefully more efficient.
And the police department seems to be on a similar tech track.
They are. It's not just implementing the photo and red light radar we mentioned. They're also actively researching how to use artificial intelligence, AI.
AI and policing. How so?
Well, the documents mention using it to enhance staff capacity, maybe automate certain tasks, and improve the customer experience, how people interact with city services related to police matters. It's pretty forward-looking for a city operation.
Interesting. Okay. Moving from systems to people and quality of life. Public safety first. The police department hit a big milestone in 2025, right? Getting fully staffed.
Yes, that was a major accomplishment noted for 2025. So for 2026, the focus shifts
From hiring to what?
to performance. The goal now is to leverage that stability, having all the officers they need to increase proactivity, to really strengthen that relationship-based policing model they talk about.
So moving from just reacting to calls to more preventative work.
That's the idea, moving from triage to prevention, like you said.
And that prevention work, it sounds like it's going to lean heavily on new technology.
Seems that way. They're adopting a whole suite of new tools pretty rapidly. Drones, e-ticketing systems, those automated speed cameras, and they specifically mention integrating facial recognition tech.
Facial recognition. Yeah.
And the focus on traffic safety is really clear too, with continued resources for their crash and traffic team to address neighborhood speeding concerns and commercial truck enforcement.
All right, shifting gears to parks and recreation, another area with significant spending, over $10 million dedicated there.
Yep, over $10 million for parks, open space, and recreation. A lot of that comes through the Conservation Trust Fund.
Which is often lottery money, right?
Exactly, state lottery revenue.
Right.
And it's going into really visible community assets. For 2026, we're seeing $560,000 earmarked for playground replacements at 3 parks: Prospect, Louise Turner, and Fruitdale.
Okay, new playgrounds. What else?
There's also $220,000 for essential maintenance at the Wheat Ridge Recreation Center, keeping the existing facilities in good shape.
And the biggest sort of future planning piece in parks seems to be Anderson Pool.
Yes, that's a key strategic goal mentioned. They're planning to actually begin the design work for the Anderson Pool replacement project.
So moving from just talk to actual design.
Right. That kicks off the process, gets it funded, and that design phase will eventually determine, the scope and the potential cost of replacing the pool. It's a big step.
Okay, let's talk housing, a huge issue everywhere. The city created the Wheat Ridge Housing Fund pretty recently, June 2023. How's it funded and what's it doing in 2026?
So its main funding source is 50% of the revenue from the short-term rental, think Airbnb lodgers tax. For 2026, they've budgeted $360,000 for the fund.
And that money isn't just sitting there.
No, they're putting it to work strategically. They've budgeted to fund a full-time senior planner position focused entirely on housing issues.
Okay, dedicated staff.
And significantly, they've allocated $60,000 for a study on implementing an affordable housing impact fee.
Ah, an impact fee study. That sounds like a potentially major policy shift.
It really is. It signals the city is seriously looking at making private developers contribute more directly to affordable housing needs.
Rather than just relying on, say, grants or general taxes.
Exactly. It suggests they're exploring new structural ways to fund housing solutions. It's a big deal to watch.
Definitely. Now, staying with community resources, the municipal court seems to be adapting too.
Yeah, they're kind of playing a dual role. On one hand, they're continuing that community court outreach.
Right. The one focused on helping defendants experiencing homelessness.
Connecting them with navigators, resources, trying to address root causes. But at the same time, they have to adapt to the new tech.
Like the photo radar.
Exactly. They're having to establish a whole new process just for handling the appeal hearings that will inevitably come from those automated tickets.
Okay. Lastly, let's look outside City Hall at the support for community partners.
Right. And this is where you see a really clear friction point in the budget numbers.
How so?
The city budgeted $200,000 for community partner grants in 2026, but the demand, it was way higher.
Oh.
Get this. 43 different organizations requested funding, asking for a total of $491,221.
Whoa. So they requested almost $500,000, but the city only budgeted $200,000.
Yep, more than double the available funding was requested.
That's quite a gap. Doesn't that create some political or at least social tension?
It certainly highlights the gap between the community's expressed needs, or the needs of these organizations, and the city's capacity to fund them, especially in a tight revenue year like this.
So they're making tough choices there.
They are, but while that specific grant program is limited, the city is still providing significant budgeted amounts to some major partners. Local Works is budgeted for $326,200.
Okay, that's substantial.
Yeah. And the Wheat Ridge Business District is set to receive $120,000, and the Carnation Festival is budgeted for $100,000.
Okay, let's focus on Local Works for a second. They're a key community development group. Their 2026 strategy is called Community, Business, and Beyond. What's that about? Sounds like they're stabilizing after growing fast.
That's the impression. After a period of rapid growth from maybe 2022 to 2025, 2026 looks like it's more about refinement and delivering consistently on their core mission.
Which involves?
A heady focus on economic engagement. They plan to continue their live local events. They estimate reaching over 1,750 residents with those. And they're bringing back the Business Block Party series at Gold's Marketplace.
Trying to drive local activity.
Exactly. And using tech to help. They're putting renewed focus on enhancing their Explore Wheat Ridge app.
As an economic development tool.
Right. Trying to boost local businesses, maybe get people spending locally, especially while that private development engine is cooler. They're also exploring a youth version of their resident academy, Wheat Ridge 101.
Oh, interesting. Investing in future civic leaders.
Sort of planting seeds for future engagement. Yeah.
Okay, let's try to pull this all together. If you had to synthesize this entire budget, Wheat Ridge's 2026 approach, in just a sentence or two.
I'd say the 2026 budget is really about balancing the essentials, keeping core services running, and maintaining fiscal stability with some pretty bold, high-risk transformation.
Transformation meaning that huge infrastructure spend.
Yeah, launching that $40 million in infrastructure projects while simultaneously navigating some serious headwinds, those flat building revenues, rising operational costs like healthcare, and crucially, the end of that federal ARPA funding cushion.
It really does sound like a year of transformation. Funded by smart management in the past, maybe, but definitely constrained by today's market realities.
That's a perfect summary. That's the key takeaway. But it does raise a final question, maybe something for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay.
We talked about that $60,000 study for a potential affordable housing impact fee, but we also noted engineering is updating drainage requirements for development. And D, they're reviewing new state guidance on the wildland urban interface, the WUI related to building codes.
Right, the WUI, where homes meet wildland.
Yeah.
Those usually mean stricter, maybe more expensive building rules for fire safety.
Exactly. So you've got potentially three big things happening concurrently. Possible new housing fees, new drainage standards, and potentially new, tougher WUI building requirements.
All things that could increase the cost of building.
Precisely. So the question is, how might all these things, these potential new fees and updated development standards reshape the actual economics of private development, especially housing, in Wheat Ridge? And what does that then do to the city's already strained building revenue base in the years after 2026?
So the city is investing heavily to build the future, but these other changes might fundamentally alter the cost of admission, so to speak, for anyone wanting to build within its borders in that future.
It's a fascinating tension, yeah. Something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for walking us through this budget deep dive. Lots to think about.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Goff. That was certainly a good presentation. I think we really got it all. I think this AI is doing wonderful. Are there any questions from council before I move to adjourn the meeting?
That was our hope. Thank you. Actually, no, we're not quite done, but just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what AI can do. That is artificial intelligence, created by Notebook LM, as it's called. Took me about 30 seconds to upload what I needed to. It took about 5 minutes to create that. So pretty cool, yeah. But that is a pretty high level summary of our budget, but we are going to get in a little bit into the weeds, a little bit more. So are you all ready to go? You got enough food? Help yourself. Don't mind getting up while we're talking here. Should be about 3 hours, I think we'll be done. Good evening, everybody. It's my privilege to present the 2026 proposed budget for the city of Wheat Ridge. This document is intentionally structured to be more than just a financial plan. It serves as a definitive statement of the values, priorities, and strategies that are set to guide our community in the year ahead. Every aspect of this proposed budget reflects these guiding principles, ensuring that core city services are funded and voter-approved bond programs continue to deliver transformational projects. The resource allocations, capital investments, and staffing commitments presented tonight directly support these strategic goals. The proposed budget balances financial stability with progress, positioning Wheat Ridge to advance its vision, ensuring that essential services are funded while transformative projects move forward. We all look forward to discussing the strategic investments and anticipated challenges detailed in this document tonight. We thank you, City Council, for your leadership and commitment to sound governance. Let's see, Cole, you doing the slides? Next slide, please.
Here, one
No,
second.
my mic's not on. Maybe that's why.
No, check. Can you hear this, Stephen? Check, check. You can hear that?
Who's texting? Rachel? Rachel, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Moving on. No, we're not going to start from the beginning. Next slide, Cole. So the creation of the 26 proposed budget was directly driven by and aligns with the updated mission, vision, and 7 strategic priorities that you, City Council, established during your retreat this year. Our mission is to cultivate opportunities to grow and generate resilience by embracing inclusive engagement, committing to resource stewardship, and valuing connectivity between people, places, and businesses. And this guides how our resources are allocated. Next slide. Our vision defines our aspirations for Wheat Ridge as a dynamic and welcoming community where collaboration with all people guides growth by embracing equity, innovation, and tradition. And this provides the lens through which we measure success. So the 26 proposed budget was developed with your 7 strategic priorities at the forefront. And those are complete and implement current planning efforts that provide a roadmap for future growth and investment. Prioritize significant development efforts to strengthen our economic base and enhance community amenities. Modernize city systems to improve efficiency, customer service, and public safety. Implement the capital improvement program to advance mobility, safety, and infrastructure needs. Ensure fiscal sustainability and community resiliency in an evolving economic environment. Complete community priorities in parks, outdoor spaces, and public art that improve quality of life. And support the built environment through reinvestment in neighborhoods, corridors, and public facilities. Each of these priorities is reflected in the resource allocations, capital investments, and staffing commitments included in this budget. So before we really get into the weeds, you really need to take a step back and look at your current budget to see where you're going. So as you can see here in this chart, we are estimating a significant increase in total available funds in this year's budget, about $7 million than we originally budgeted. About 3.8 of this increase comes from higher than expected revenues and sales tax. In sales and use tax audits, we got one very large audit this year we were not expecting. It was how much? Do you remember how much it was? Well, it was almost $1 million, I think. Almost $1 million for one audit, which we did not expect. And also our interest income was a lot larger than expected, than budgeted. And then also there was a larger fund balance carryover from the end of 24 into 25 because of increased revenues and decreased expenditures in 24. Estimated spending, as you can see, is only very slightly higher than we expected. And we expect to end 25 with 6.7 million additional in fund balance reserves than budgeted. So with that, I will turn it over to Mary Ann, and she will continue through some of the other budget funds.
Great, thank you, Patrick. So now turning over to the 2026 budget, we will first briefly discuss the overall 2026 budget fund structure. We'll touch on the overall budget, work through our capital programs, where we'll discuss projected revenues, proposed expenditures, and major projects, and then we'll wrap up with a discussion on staffing. So the budget structure, there's really no changes for next year from last year. Last year is when we added the 2J fund, and then we also got rid of the police investigations fund, and 2E fell off. So no changes here compared to last year, but you'll see our general operating budget. Beneath that is our special funds, which includes equipment replacement, crime prevention, public art, our Wheat Ridge Housing Fund, municipal court, our conservation trust fund, and open space. Beneath that is capital improvement program, renewal Wheat Ridge, bond projects fund below that, and then finally the next chapter, bond fund. Moving on to the 2026 proposed budget, there is a total of 101 million when you consider all funds, and that's inclusive of general fund, capital fund, and special funds. This also includes a $3 million transfer from the general fund into CIP using one-time revenue. We try to do this transfer each year when we can. Last year, we were not able to do so. So this year, we're really excited to be able to bring that back. We project that we will begin the year with 126 million in the fund balance. We also project 80 million in total revenues and 101 million in total expenditures, leaving an ending fund balance of 24 million. The capital programs column that you see below also includes that CIP, Renewal Wheat Ridge, and 2J fund that we just mentioned a slide earlier. In expenditures, of the 2026 total budget has increased about $5.8 million or 6% from the original 2025 budget as adopted. This can be attributed to an $8 million increase in general fund operating budget compared to last year. We have a large reduction in CIP expenditures as we wrap up major projects like Wadsworth. And then we're doubling our 2J fund expenditures as we start to really tackle these community-driven projects. So together, the capital programs, as you can see, account for about 38% of our 2026 proposed budget. And that is a lot of exciting projects that our interim public works director, Kent Kisselman, will discuss in a few slides. Turning now to the general fund revenue. Revenues projected for 2026 at a little over $51 million, which is flat compared to our 2025 year-end estimated revenues. But it is an 8% increase compared to what we budgeted. So this time last year when we came to you and adopted the budget, it's 8% higher than that 25 adopted revenue. And that significant increase is primarily due to sales and use tax audit revenue, as Patrick mentioned, traffic fine revenues, building related revenues, rec center fees, and interest income. And in addition, the beginning fund balance for 2026 is now projected to be 18.2 million, which brings us to a total available funds for the general fund at just over $69 million. Each year, we do try to bring you conservative revenue estimates to allow for us to be nimble and to be ready for these unknowns that are always upon us. So this 8% increase from our estimated revenues over our adopted numbers is really great news for the city. These charts show the composition of general fund revenue. So the main thing that we like to show is that the sales tax is 56% of our budget. That is 1% below what it was last year. So we're staying pretty even. I think before that it was 1% above. So we're always keeping it about the same. But we really do rely heavily on our local sales tax. So as Mr. Stites like to say, buy in Wheat Ridge. But yeah, so sales tax, you can see how everything else is divided in there. Use tax 12%, services 8%, intergovernmental 4%. But yes, our primary funding source is sales tax. When we look at the financial health of the general fund revenue, this chart shows total revenues from year to year, starting with 2022 on the far left. So that big spike you see in 2022 is that second tranche of ARPA dollars that we got. So if you recall, we got $7.8 million in ARPA money. We got it in two $3.9 million tranches. So that big jump is one-time revenue from the ARPA funds. 2023 came back to sort of normal in the kind of post-COVID world. And then 2024 includes a $200,000 jump from the congressionally directed spending for the Clear Creek Makerspace. And then you'll note sort of how we just described a couple slides ago, the jump in the 2025 estimated. So what we took to the budget last year and the 2025 adopted was about 47 million, which is flat with that 2024 actual. So it's really great that we're seeing that 2025 is closer to now what we're proposing for 2026. So we do have that 8% increase in estimated revenue, but we are anticipating it to be flat moving into the new year. Moving into expenditures, the 2026 proposed budget includes a general fund expenditures of just over $53 million. The general fund expenditures represent a 7% increase compared to that 2025 adjusted budget. And the primary reason for this is approximately $430,000 in fees for our enterprise resource management software. So we're doing a whole software system overhaul. As you know, we're seeing $690,000 in fees for our photo radar expenses, and then it also includes $1.1 million in compensation and benefits. The photo radar expense is offset in our revenues, but our contract is actually written so that we never actually pay. They deduct our expense and then we only receive the revenues, but our auditors require that we demonstrate this in the budget. So you'll see this spike in the police general fund budget, and that's because we're capturing both the revenue and the expense in the budget book. But, so it seems like a large increase. It's an overall net positive as we continue to see revenue from this investment in our community safety. You'll also see this $3 million transfer that I mentioned a few slides ago. We were able to use one-time revenues from the general fund to transfer to CIP, and that's used for street maintenance projects. The ending fund balance for the general fund is projected at 12.9 million, of which 9 million, so 17% of our operating expenditures, is considered unrestricted, which means it's not really being saved for anything in particular. But the city's financial policy, so what's been approved by City Council, is that the city has to maintain a minimum unrestricted fund balance of at least 2 months, which is 17%, as recommended by GFOA, our Government Finance Officers Association. But when you think about restricted funds, we'll be wrapping up our ARPA expenditures this year. So this is 2026. We will be spending to the tune of about 500,000 in ARPA dollars. Additionally, Tabor requires that we maintain a 3% emergency reserve. We have 1.1 million set aside for Fruitdale Lofts. And then finally, staff is proposing to restrict an additional 1.1 million for funding in future one-time expenditures. And then just a little bit more information on Fruitdale. Foothills Regional Housing is in negotiation with Fruitdale to purchase that property. And as part of that agreement, the city is going to contribute $2 million of congressionally directed spending for our naturally occurring affordable housing, our NOAA program. And in return, at closing, the city is going to receive the remaining 1.1 million that's due from the original loan. And the 2026 proposed budget right now still allocates that debt as restricted fund balance in the general fund until those funds are actually received. But then once we receive it, our unrestricted fund balance will go from 17% to 19%. In the general fund expenditures, now we're looking at it by department. The police department, as usual, is our largest department by budget at 31% with 104 employees. So it's mostly staffing taking that cost. Our Parks and Rec, we also have a few members of our police staff that are also in our crime prevention fund. So it's not the totality of our police department. Parks and Recreation is our next highest at 14% of the general fund and 49 employees. And Public Works is 12% of the budget with 34 employees in the general fund. And Administrative Services is next with 12% of the budget with 31.5 employees. Community Development has 6% of the budget with 15.75 employees. And Municipal Court is 2% of the budget with 12. General Government is 6% of the budget and includes a mix of elected officials, contracted employees, and then 9 employees. And that includes you all, City Council, and includes our City Clerk, City Treasurer, the City Manager's Office, Economic Development, and our City Attorney. Central charges, which is 12% of the budget, does not include any staff. And it includes centralized expenditures for the city, such as workers' comp, property liability, medical, dental, life insurance coverage, and then rent for our building over at 45th and Watts. When we start looking at the financial health of the city, this chart shows our ongoing expenditures. So the general fund expenditures total a little over $53 million. And as I mentioned earlier, they represent a 7% increase compared to our adjusted budget, which is primarily, again, due to the fees to our software system upgrade, photo radar expenses, and comp and benefits. If we move on to the next slide. This chart shows the recent years of our budgeted and then ending fund balances. So if you look at the blue, it's our budgeted numbers. The orange is what ends up actually being our fund balance, our ending fund balance. The gray is our 2025, what we're estimating to be the fund balance. And then in the yellow is 2026, what we are proposing. So you can see that our conservative style of budget has really been consistent with us having a healthier fund balance than the budgeted year over year. But however, this can also be a little bit, it can be, what's the word I'm trying to say? It can be a little confusing and a little deceptive because what we end up doing is we do the carryovers at the beginning of the year. So when that happens, usually when we have carryover funds that are promised or are committed on purchase orders, or if there's a delay in services. So we saw this a lot a couple years ago when we wanted to be purchasing vehicles, but there was a big delay. We would release the funds back and then rebudget them the next year. So that's why it kind of looks a little bit like we have higher estimated. And this can give a false sense of the ending fund balance. So I'm also really pleased with how hard our team works to present really accurate estimated numbers. A lot of us have worked in other cities, and you'll find a lot of people have a kind of a use it or lose it mentality where you say you're going to spend every dollar that you've budgeted because you're worried you won't be able to budget the same amount next year. But here, people really try to give really good estimated numbers to say if they don't think they're going to be able to get to a project, please let us know, because that's money that we can use for the next year's budget. So that everyone has that group mentality. We're really trying to help us plan the best budget for the following year. And now I will pass it over to Cole to talk to us about our outside agency contributions.
Thank you. So here we have our outside agency contributions. The first one is $100,000 to the Carnation Festival, which is the same amount that the city provided to them in the previous year. This is for their ongoing operations, for their fantastic festival that's just a gem of the city. Next is $120,000 for the Wheat Ridge Business District. This includes $75,000 for Wadsworth Business Recovery Grant Pool and $45,000 for their other citywide programs. Next, we have Local Works at $326,200, which is about the same as we provided to them in the previous year for them to continue building upon their strategic plan of community, business, and beyond. Next, we have our Community Partners Grant Program. We gave $200,000 awarded to 32 partners in the 2026 budget. The largest award that we're providing is $12,000. The smallest award is $1,000, and the median of those awards is $5,000. I now pass it back to our city manager, Patrick Goff.
Thank you, Cole. Now we'd like to turn it over to each member of the executive management team seated here to give us a brief overview of the things they are most excited about in this budget and their accomplishments for this year. So start with Mary Ann first.
Great, thank you. So we started the 2J Next Chapter Bond Fund really in earnest this year. I won't talk about that too much in detail because our interim public works director is going to be giving a bunch of detail on the 2J bond, but we are very excited about that. Additionally, our IDEA committee has now been meeting for a little over a year. They partnered for the first Pride events at the city this past June, very excited about, and they're continuing to table at our local events, performances in the park. They're going to be at Trunk or Treat and the holiday event this year, really still introducing themselves to the community and learning what our community wants to see from this committee. Additionally, our homeless navigation program achieved over 25 housing placements this year, which brings us to 175 housing placements to date. Very excited about that. And something new this year that we did was a donation drive for summer goods. So they were accepting donations of bags and water bottles from the community, and they had 200 bags and 300 water bottles that were donated. We also have a winter drive taking place right now through the end of October for lightly used socks, gloves, hats, things of that nature. In January of this year, the Prosperity Plan was adopted by Economic Development Manager Steve Arts. We were very excited to see that come to fruition. Additionally, we are now in our second iteration of our Wheat Ridge 102 program. So the 102 is for graduates of the 101 who want to really learn more about the city. They want to have a hands-on project and really implement real meaningful change in the city. So we are working with in collaboration with Local Works to see that to the finish line. You'll see them in their presentation to you all in December. So very excited about that. And just as a fun kind of offshoot of our 101 and our 102, we launched an internal program called Wheat Ridge Wise this year to actually help our internal staff learn more about each other. So Thursday, community development is presenting to all staff. In 2026, we will be implementing the Wheat Ridge Prosperity Plan and then supporting all of the other adoptive plans that you all know about. So we have a lot going on there. We're also for our sustainability division, we will be launching a public-facing dashboard to track key metrics in the implementation of the Sustainability Action Plan. I've seen the draft of it. It's really cool, and it's going to be able to have a lot of transparency with our community to keep up to date on how we're doing with that implementation. We also have a lot of grants in the works. So for homeless navigation and sustainability, working a lot on grants related to our homelessness. There's a DOLA homelessness response program grant that's in the works, as well as grants with DRCOG and the Colorado Energy Office that we're finalizing for submittal now. So hopefully that we will be able to expand our services next year. I will now pass it over to our court administrator, who you all have not met yet, Roxana Caldwell-Tillery, who's going to tell us what's going on in municipal court.
Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. So obviously, I'm the new person in the court, the new thing in the court, as well as we also just hired a probation officer permanently. So that is very exciting. I know we've been without one for quite a while. We are getting a new software system. We are in the very last stages. We're waiting on a Noah from SIPA to be able to sign off on our contract and to be able to implement the grant so that we can get our new court software system. I believe we're the last of all of the new software systems to be able to be implemented. We're pretty excited about it. There's a lot of things that it encompasses, and one of the things that we're doing with that is going paper on demand, or trying to not have paper in our processes anymore. And I think we've already started that process in conjunction with having a new software system so that the transition is easier. So we're pretty excited about that too. A lot of changes being made. We also implemented a collection agency. We just sent our first batch of accounts over to collections. It was over 200 accounts. We're still processing more. We're also working with Ultimate and DC Kellogg to be able to get some of those photo radar accounts that are delinquent or past due, also to be able to send those to collections. So we're excited to see how well that works as opposed to what has been done historically. That's, I think, about it. We're starting our photo radar hearings at the end of this month. We have our first batch. I'm not sure how many will actually show up, but we're excited to see that process begin and sort of watch it evolve, figure things out as we go along. So we do want to obviously monitor the success of the collection agency. We want to, the judge is reviewing the court fine and fee schedule. There were a couple of things on there that seemed like they may not need to be in there, and there were some fees that I think that the judge was looking at implementing either a higher fee or looking at just making sure that we're in line with what the standards are right now. We also, not listed up there, I just wanted to mention that our community court hasn't been as successful. We sort of been reevaluating, hasn't been as successful as we wanted it to be, or that we thought that it might be. And so we decided to try and implement a new way of, maybe a new thought of how we might want to address the people that are supposed to be coming to community court but just aren't able to either make it or aren't successfully coming to community court. So the idea was to meet people where they are, I think is what the idea was to begin with for community court. And unfortunately for our clients, our clientele, the meeting them where they are is a lot of the time at the jail. So we are having our homeless navigators be available for people that are that are in either our community court program or that could be, that are eligible to be, and they're going to meet them there at the jail to provide services from that standpoint as well as the community court. And we want to see if that helps the success of the idea of what community court was all about to begin with. And then obviously for the next year, we want to implement our new court management system. It is going to be quite the process. I think they said it was going to be about a year to get it up and running and then go live. It's going to be quite the transition from having an absolute paper file to having absolutely no paper at all whatsoever. And we're pretty excited about what it's going to offer. So implementing that is going to take some time, but we're excited.
All right, me again. Now moving on to administrative services. Some of the 2025 accomplishments, as you can imagine, are really closely related to our systems transformation. So the IT team is leading this project. We've implemented the GovOS tax and licensing software so far. We've recently transitioned to Paycom for payroll and human resources. So we're really investing in our customer service, both internally and externally. And I met with our IT manager this morning to say, is there anything you want me to plug in the budget for you? And he said, let everyone know that October is Cyber Security Month and not to click on any weird links. Some additional accomplishments in 2025 is that our OpenGov procurement, we've heard from our procurement manager that we're seeing better compliance, that our contract management in the new system is much stronger. And then more importantly, our vendors are really appreciating it. So it's really user-friendly. We've completed a disaster recovery plan. And so for those who may recall, our risk management coordinator is a somewhat newer position just from the last couple of years. So this role is already really paying off. And in creating this disaster recovery plan, it's really working towards City Council's strategic priority number 5 to ensure fiscal sustainability and community resiliency. So we're getting someone who has the dedicated time to kind of catch us up on some of the resiliency that we need to be working on. Our communications team worked heavily on a lot of the Lutheran initiatives. They did the FAQ Fridays, trying to keep our community informed, helped to coordinate meetings with our local organizations to just share more about that project as a big accomplishment. And then Patrick mentioned that we had seen some unexpected revenue coming in from audit revenue. In 2024, we started using a company called Revenue Recovery Group. It's a third-party tax auditor. And this is the first year that we're really starting to see those results. And we're seeing these huge one-time increases like Patrick mentioned earlier. So we're really excited to be seeing that coming through. For 2026, I can't tell you how excited I am for the budgeting software to come through. I'll just leave it at that. The 7th year working in Word and Excel to make the entire budget, we're ready. So super excited for that in 2026. And then to continue to support City Council in the implementation of your strategic priorities is really top of the priority list for us. And then internally, our manager of people and culture is working to update a lot of our human resource procedures, policies and guidelines to make sure that they are up to date and appropriate and that they match the values of the city as we are. So very excited about that. I will now turn it over to Lauren. to tell us about community development.
Yes, in community development, as you well know, this year was really defined for us by completing a lot of major planning milestones and continuing some steady development work. We completed the Lutheran campus zone change, positioning the site for redevelopment. We completed the city plan, one of our most comprehensive community planning efforts to date. And we've continued to process major development applications at Clear Creek Crossing. The Legacy campus has now started some of their applications, the American Motel site, 44th and Kipling corridor. A lot of our projects that are multi-year entitlement reviews. Development activity has remained pretty steady. I know the podcast told us revenues were down, and they are a little bit compared to a hospital. But we did recently exceed our projected permit revenue for the year, so that felt good. Thank you. Also, earlier this year, we renewed the contract with Charles Abbott and Associates for the building division, ensuring some continuity and stability there.
We're nearing the completion of our building code update here this month. And I would say overall, 2025 has really been a year of transition. We're wrapping up long-range planning work, and we're positioning ourselves to move more fully into implementation. And so in 2026, plan implementation will be big work for us. It doesn't have a big budget impact. It's a lot of our existing staff that does that work. The things that we're excited about are implementing the city plan, housing strategy, Lutheran campus, 44th, a lot of the planning that we've done over the last 5 years or so. We'll implement the building codes and provide education and outreach around those updates. And of course, continue our core functions, processing, development, and managing permits, supporting the city's capital projects as well. Your turn.
I won't start right away on the slides, just so you know. I feel like you should do this like a podcast. Hey, guys, a lot of you are asking about the budget. So tonight I wanted to just give you a few points before I got into the slides. But when we internalized the budget this year and last year, really, we talked about some of the council priorities that you mentioned in your mission and vision statements. Collaboration, equity, innovation, and tradition were all things that stood out to us. So I think you'll see some of that weaved in our budget, or woved in our budget throughout the budget presentation here, which will be very short. Patrick told me 31% of the budget doesn't equate to 31% of the time, so I'll be quick. But 6 of the philosophies that we talk about in the Wheat Ridge Police Department and mission statements. So when we talk about training, we're talking about enhanced training, making sure our folks are the best trained people in Colorado at least, and the budget reflects that. Leadership training, leadership academies to make sure we have strong leadership. We see faltering organizations have poor leadership, and we like to develop internally to make sure that is solid. Relationship-based policing, that's the cornerstone of our policing philosophy. We train to that. We go out in the community and preach that. We connect with our community. We have technology that gives us more time to do those kind of things. So all of that is interrelated. So that's an innovative and an equity solution right there. Productivity doesn't necessarily mean going out and writing citations. It means going out and just being active and engaged in the community. So we collaborate with our community. We make sure that we're out there every day trying to talk to our folks. And family is really an internal look to make sure that we treat each other fairly and equitably for retention and staffing purposes. So we invest in people, leadership, and community. That's what this budget stresses, I think. Those are the important things to us. And we talk about compassion with boundaries. When we talk about compassion, we're talking about services, which are reflected in the budget as well. So we're talking about services with homeless navigation or with our co-responder program, and they are in the budget. So going through the slides, Cole, quickly, I'll say that some of our 25 accomplishments were actually the 4th straight year of crime reduction. So 30% down since we had the COVID spike, which was up about 15% for that 1 year that everybody saw a spike in crime. So we're happy that we're below pre-COVID numbers by a fairly significant amount. Certainly a large part of that was a result of the hotel licensing that was done. And we certainly do not take full credit for that by ourselves, but that was a all of staff project right there. We'll fully staff the police department. Most of our peers, many of our peers, almost all of them can't say the same thing, and we believe that's attributable to culture. We achieved our 5th CALEA, Commission on Accreditation for law enforcement agencies. Less than 10% of the agencies in the country have this accreditation. This accreditation means that our standards meet the national best practices. And this year, I'm happy to say that after maybe doing 10 of these throughout the course of my career, we flew through it without one single question from the board, without one single question on our files. I've never seen an agency fly through, and neither have they. They all commented. I went down to Little Rock. If you've ever been, plan to spend an hour there. You'll really enjoy it. I didn't see a whole lot going on there, but Patrick promised me big things, and I didn't see it. But we did get our accreditation down there, and that was great. We continue to focus on relationship-based policing. We think that's the right way to go, and we're seeing that our community really enjoys engaging with their police department. flipping over to the next one here. Obviously, technology is huge for the police department. Our photo radar program, we've seen what we had hoped to see, which was a reduction in the number of citations, especially around the school, in that school zone. It is fairly, I don't want to say it's dramatic, but it's notable at a pretty significant level, and that's a good thing. We're not in it for the money, we're in it for the public safety, and we're seeing that. We're seeing reductions on the 44th, not as dramatic, but we're seeing that. Draft one report writing allows AI to help us write our first draft report. Our drone program is phenomenal. We use it more than I ever envisioned we would. E-ticketing has been another huge success. It gives our officers much more time back, from an average of 16 minutes per citation to about 3.5 minutes now. We added our business liaison and our halftime SRO and business liaison. Even before things like Evergreen school shooting occurred, we were trying to think ahead and trying to add a little bit more to that area. And so we have somebody that is floating around out there. Joe Mallory, you might know him, but he's also working with our businesses to make sure we're connected to that part of the community. And we're doing a lot of extra training around our sergeant's position to try and make sure that first line supervision is strong. Our strategic priorities in 26, continue to strengthen those partnerships with businesses to make sure we know them and they know us. We are committing to that relationship with our businesses. Commitment to training, more than ever, with such a very young core group of officers, we want to make sure that they are fully trained. So we spend a fair amount of resources and capital on that. Expanding our cops in the community, trying to be out in the community where people are at instead of waiting for them to come find us. And then lastly, strengthen our compassion with boundaries mindset to make sure that we lead with compassion, but we always set the boundary that there are some folks who are just not going to, we're not going to be able to give them the services they need because the things that they're doing sort of override the services. We'll try and get back to the services after we take care of the criminal aspect of things. So that's it from the police department. Thank you for supporting us.
Okay.
And next up is Karen.
Thanks, Chief.
And Karen,
Okay, so we've been busy in Parks and Recreation this year, and these slides just provide some highlights, starting with one of my favorite projects of my entire career, the Green at 38th, which we had an extremely successful grand opening event on September 6th. The next two items, they say completed because they will be completed in 2025, but they are not completed as of October 6th. But we will complete our Parks and Recreation pathway this year, which is the update to our department's 10-year master plan. And we will complete the Panorama Park tennis court and basketball court replacement. If you've driven by, it's getting very close to completion there. And we began the Keep Anderson Afloat engagement project, which we came to you all in a study session to kind of discuss our plan for that, and then have done a variety of engagement throughout the community and gotten a lot of data from residents of all ages to really help with the next step as we move forward. We completed ADA upgrades to the Parks and Recreation website, and through grant funding, we're able to plant over 150 more trees than we removed, and increased sun camp capacity from 66 campers to 96 campers. So looking into 2026, we are working very hard as a team to obtain our department reaccreditation through CAPRA so we can keep in line with the police department in keeping this going forward. And just for some statistics, there are only 10 CAPRA accredited Parks and Recreation agencies in the state of Colorado and only 214 in the nation. So it's a pretty special recognition that we carry in Wheat Ridge. And we're going to begin our Anderson Pool replacement design, complete the Tabor Lake Trail project, which construction has started this year and will continue into next year with just some of the timing constraints related to different areas, different parts of that particular area. But moving forward on that and prioritizing the acquisition of the Wilmore Davis and Colorstrand fields. And with that, I will pass it along to our interim Public Works Director, Kent Kisselman.
Hello. Can you hear me? Good now? All right. Well, thank you for having me this evening. Some of our completed projects in 2025 the rec center bridge repairs, the Youngfield Scour project. We completed the master plan, and next week you'll all be receiving the rate study presentation. We're finishing up the annual sidewalk, ADA, and traffic calming, the speed humps in the neighborhoods. Those are completed. And we're finalizing the pavement maintenance. I believe 29th should be starting within the week. So I think that's one of the last streets. In-house, we got 1,000 pothole repairs. That's just a continuous effort every single waking moment of their existence. Plowing of snow, that's coming up. Stormwater pipe, this is pretty impressive. I'll just take a side note a little bit, but to be able to have an in-house crew that can do this kind of work without subbing it out is pretty impressive. And these are not just little 8-inch pipe, this is 24 and 36-inch pipe. So a credit to the staff to be able to install this on their own. Street sweeping, always ongoing. They just started fall street sweeping, so they'll be out and about. And keeping the fleet afloat with the repairs. Our priorities in 2026, substantial completion for WADS. That should be coming at the end of November. Finish that up in 2026. Fleet management software, which is going to help us with some asset management and really track what we're doing and how we can be better. And then implement the stormwater master plan. And that's going to be critical as we move forward. The fleet replacement schedule, so you'll see that here. PD, 7 vehicles, Park 6, Public Works 4. Highlights, PD's getting some Tahoes and a couple Chevy Colorados. Park's getting a couple Blazers and some trailers. The big purchase for the Public Works Department is a new patch truck. We're into capital programs. Oh, there we go. All right. This is the expenditures for all the programs that we have. I won't read the number. Do you want me to read the numbers? Okay. CIP program, 9.8 million. Renewal Wheat Ridge Fund, 2.2 million. And the 2J Next Chapter Bond, 28 million, totaling $40 million. Now we'll get into specific programs. The capital improvement program will start with 26 million and we'll end with 1.3. Want me to read the numbers, all of them? Okay. Some of our major projects, you'll see the picture of the CFI. We're sending out the Friday fax on the CFIs that began a couple weeks ago, so can continue to look out for those. Some ADA compliance stuff there, traffic signals. We're doing the ones on 44th and Eldridge. We're looking at those. We're doing some asset management on our existing poles as well, trying to figure out how structural sound they are as well. Moving into our proposed CIP major projects. We have the WADS path, which is a little delayed, but we're going to be putting that out for bid here by the end of November. And then that work involves some ditch work. And so we may need to slow roll that so we can time that we can get into that ditch in next November. So, but the plans are coming along nicely. We've got the agreements in place and we're moving along.
Do you want to explain briefly why it's delayed?
So it was our full intent to have this bid out by the deadline for DRCOG on October 1st. And the FHWA, we had a meeting with CDOT and the FHWA shut down from September 15th and until October 15th. And we need concurrence on our bidding documents from the FHWA to be able to bid the project. And so they will not give concurrence while they're not working. So we had to wait and we received a DRCOG strike. And I'll be meeting with DRCOG Wednesday, to explain ourselves and why we didn't meet our deadline.
Thankfully, Federal Highway, FHWA, is not part of the government closure today, so they should be back in the office on October 15th, we hope. So we'll keep your fingers crossed.
Yes. The Mirkwood Drainage Project is a design and construction to reduce localized flooding between Mirkwood subdivision at 32nd Avenue and Robb Street. And so that's community development is really helping us lead the charge on that. Proposed long-term CIP funding strategy. Here's some transfer from the general fund, annual preventative maintenance, other annual funding. We want to look at striping. We're not doing striping in 2026, but we want to come up with a better plan for 2027. We can do a little bit of in-house ADA improvements. We want to really understand what we're doing and look at how we're coming into compliance. And then upping our neighborhood traffic management programs and taking a look at some different ideas of how it's not always just speed humps as well. Wheat Ridge, the renewal bond projects fund. We're going to start with $0, and we're going to end with $0 with 2.2 in the middle there with projected revenues and expenditures. We're going to spend it all. This is going to be in the Applewood area. We're going to do the Youngfield aesthetics and sidewalks. So I know that's been a long time coming. We are meeting with the contractor, I believe next week, to get started and when we're going to get going on that. And that's going to be in conjunction with Karen and Parks and Rec, because there's an art component in that separately. And so we'll be working very closely together, and we're looking forward to getting that project going. There is a long lead time on that artwork, but we want to get them in there and see what we can get done as soon as we can. And then 44th and Eldridge, that traffic signal, that's the one at the end of town. We're looking at that. There's a railroad crossing there, and so there's some right-of-way issues. What we want to do there is the signals are just outdated and in the way that one of the poles is right smack dab into the middle of the tiny sidewalk. So that's a project we're looking at currently, and we should get some design done over the winter and be ready to do some construction next year. Kipling area. These are in-house projects from our facilities. Daniel Byers, rec center windows, some partition replacements, and some window well replacements. In the Wheat Ridge Ward Station area, we're working on, as you can recall, we are no longer doing the multimodal project, but as a good neighbor policy over there, there's stormwater there's a pipe that's blocked, and it's causing problems for the development there, and it's impacting our right-of-way as well. So if you've driven on the frontage road over there, you may have seen the icy pictures. You just see constant water. So this project is going to extract those stormwater plans from that multimodal project and fix that area. One of the lines between the manholes is completely clogged, and we're going to remove that clog, add a manhole, and really distinguish between what's the cities in the right-of-way and what's private development. So those plans should be hitting the streets here in the next week or two for bid, and we want to get that work done over the winter as well. The 2J bond projects, we're going to begin with 24.4 million. And we're going to end with about 8.6. We're really going to try to get some spending done in 2026. We're going to start with stormwater drainage improvements. We still have the emergency stormwater, but over in 2025, the work that we did and working with American West and using some of that spin casting, it was really a good alternative to just excavating up everything in the street. So we're going to continue with that. We hope to not use so much emergency because we're trying to get ahead of this. And again, you'll hear some of this at our discussion next week as well. Our priority repairs, about $2 million for that. We're going to try to get the final section of Hoyt, which was the major break that we had this year. So there's about 500 more feet of spin casting that we can do on that. We're going to be putting that out for bid here very shortly. A project that we want to start early next year as well is on the southeast corner of 45th and J Street. There's a manhole that's being undermined by the upstream pipe that doesn't have an invert, and so it's just deteriorating the whole thing. So those are some of the major ones that we're going to do, and then we're also working with our consultant to build a kind of a mini program that will identify these. There's probably 8 to 11 of these projects that are identified, and we'll be finishing that up and bringing that forth as well. The Clear Creek to Balsam, that's implementing the master plan improvements from 44th Avenue to the east of the Charlie Brown Bridge. I hope everybody knows what the Charlie Brown Bridge, because that's what Rocky told me to say. And we're going to reduce the flood risk for the Clearvale neighborhood. And again, that's another one that we're going to be working very closely with community development and Rocky on. Some of our corridor projects, the 38th Avenue West, Youngfield to Kipling, we had a meeting on that today about stormwater and really trying to focus. When we brought that back, you all said that you were really wanting to see some water quality issues. So that meeting was surrounding where can we fit in this water quality issues. Along 38th, we continue to effort forward with Excel to get them to give us a price on what it's going to cost to underground those utilities. They have stated that if they do the work, it will be a 40-week, yes, process for them to underground those utilities. So we may be in 2026, if it aligns, we may be doing just undergrounding utilities along 38th, and then trying to do the 38th project late around this time, beginning that project. There's still a lot of design and a lot of things to work out and a lot of collaboration with outside entities on that project, but it is efforting forward. The traffic signal at 44th and Tabor, we should receive that warrant analysis, again, within the next couple weeks, and then we'll know if that signal is warranted. If it is in fact warranted, we'll begin the design plans for that and be able to do that construction next year. The last one is 26th and Harlan Roundabout. That's a project being led by Edgewater, and that is a contribution on our behalf for that project. And we'll get more involved in that as that comes around next year. That was supposed to be for 2025, but they pushed it to 2026. So we'll work with Kit and his team on what that looks like next year. Sidewalk and bicycle pedestrian or sidewalk and bicycle facilities projects. So we have the sidewalk gap, and this is where we're really going to try to focus. We've had internal meetings with community development and Ashley and really trying to pinpoint down what are those areas. We're meeting with Olson Consulting tomorrow to go over our first map of the roads that internally we've selected to begin to put together scope and fee for those. Includes a couple hawk signals and several streets. The ADA pedestrian ramp installation, yeah, we're still focusing on that in 2026. The Miller and Upham traffic calming, Tabor Street multimodal improvements, that we've kind of expanded the project. I think you know as well that we were able to move the multimodal money over to the Tabor Street for construction because the Tabor Street project only included design, but now we have around 9 million, maybe a little bit more for construction as well. So we're gonna get that project underway. The funding didn't even become available until October. That's another transportation improvement project through CDOT. And again, with CDOT projects, you know, we need their concurrence and blessing every step of the way. So we need their concurrence on the IGA. We need their concurrence on the RFP. We'll need their concurrence on awards. So it doesn't happen quickly, but we keep pushing and try to get that done as soon as we can. 35th multimodal improvements. That's another transportation improvement project. same process. We're working already on the IGA. We're working on the RFP. And as soon as they give us concurrence, we'll be putting those things out to bid. The ADA transition plan that was mentioned earlier as part of something that we're working on. So we're going to be focusing on ADA improvements and sidewalk improvements and where we can make those better. Sidewalk maintenance, that's just our annual program as well for additional sidewalk. And with that, I am out of slides.
It's back to me for our Open Space Fund and Conservation Trust Fund. So we'll start with the Open Space Fund. And just as a reminder, the Open Space Fund is a restricted fund, and it's funded by the half-cent sales tax per capita allotment through Jefferson County Open Space for the purpose of acquiring, developing, and maintaining open space and park properties within the city of Wheat Ridge. So as you can see from this slide, in the Open Space Fund, also known as Fund 32, you'll see a beginning fund balance of $700,000. Our projected revenues for 2026 are approximately $6 million, with our major revenue sources being projected grant funding of approximately $2.1 million, and some of that has already been awarded, and some of it we are hopeful to receive. But that includes CDOT TAP grant funding for the design phase of the Clear Creek widening project, potential land water conservation fund dollars for Anderson pool design, and Jefferson County open space funds for Anderson and Prospect Park mill and overlay work, and potentially land acquisition dollars for the 2 former school sites. Also within that revenue is Jefferson County open space tax in the amount of $1.8 million, parkland dedication fees in the amount of $1 million, and land sales associated with the Town Center Park site and the future DOPS Sweet Spot ice cream location. 2026 projected expenditures are approximately $6.2 million and include $986,000 in CDOT TAP grant trail replacement and widening project. That's a multi-year project, so this is just 1 year of that spending. $800,000 has been budgeted for the Anderson pool replacement design. And again, we hope to receive grant funding to assist with that project. $720,000 for Prospect and Anderson Park mill and overlay projects. And again, we've requested Jefferson County open space trail partnership dollars for that, and we haven't found out yet based on their timeline if we've received those funds, but hope to have some supplemental dollars to go towards that project. And we have $181,000 budgeted for Stites Park irrigation and a variety of other smaller projects, as well as the salaries of 7 park maintenance positions and 2 forestry positions. So our projected ending fund balance is $480,000. Moving on to the Conservation Trust Fund, also known as CTF or Fund 54. It's a restricted fund, and per the Colorado Constitution, the Conservation Trust Fund receives 40% of the net proceeds of the Colorado Lottery. These funds are distributed on a quarterly per capita basis to municipalities, counties, and other eligible entities for parks, recreation, and open space purposes. CTF funds are used for new projects as well as maintenance projects. Our beginning fund balance in Fund 54 is $509,000. Our estimated revenues are $385,000, and estimated expenditures are $830,000, including $400,000 for Fruitdale playground replacement, and we're looking at various grants also for this project and planning some fun community engagement on this project as well. We have budgeted $125,000 for the Prospect East playground replacement. And similar to previous years, we're prioritizing taking care of what we have. So we have $220,000 earmarked for various improvements to maintain our existing facilities. So this includes replacement of our Pilates reformers at the Wheat Ridge Recreation Center, completing the next phase of the Wheat Ridge Recreation Center ballroom sound system upgrade, replacing the lobby furniture at the Active Adult Center, closure week needs, and more beyond that. $25,000 is budgeted for resurfacing of various courts, and $25,000 is earmarked for miscellaneous park maintenance projects. So that leaves us with projected ending fund balance of 64,000. And now I will turn it back to Interim Deputy City Manager Schilling.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to our staffing and benefits to get toward the finish line of this presentation. The staffing and benefits takes up about 65% of our general fund budget. As we like to say, as a city, we don't make widgets, we provide services to our community, and so it makes sense that a lot of it is our personnel. If you move on to the staffing table, we are keeping it flat. We are not including any new positions in 2026 over 2025. So this does include one unfunded vacancy in municipal court. But really what we're trying to do is evaluate what we have. As we see vacancies, you want to make sure that those positions are serving the current need. You may recall, and a couple years ago, we made some adjustments to create a compliance officer as sort of like a CSO finance position. That was a new way to address this specific need. We've also seen similar in police. We have folks that are now working on senior scams. That was not necessarily a need 5 years ago, but we're seeing it now. So we're trying to keep it flexible, and as positions open up, we're evaluating what those positions might need to look like, and as they might need to meet our city and community expectations, while still maintaining fiscally responsible strategies. Moving on to the next slide, this is just sort of shows you that mostly everybody's in the general fund. We have 255.25 in our general fund, and then we have positions that are spread out through some of our special funds. So we have 9 in our open space fund, 8 in crime prevention, 2 as part of our 2J Next Chapter Bond Fund. Those positions were added last year, if you remember, as an infrastructure projects manager and project technician. And then we have 1 senior planner in community development who is in the Wheat Ridge Housing Fund. And this isn't really about the staffing in certain areas, but I just wanted to highlight that we do have some movement in public works because we've added 3 new cost centers in that area for this year. So we used to have just facilities and operations as the 2 accounts in public works, but we've added 3 more, which you might have seen in your budget book. So now we have capital projects, fleet, and traffic, and so the staff have spread out accordingly in those areas. Moving on to our employee benefit highlights. Employees are eligible for performance increase in January of 2026 based on how well they meet the city's core values and competencies of the performance management program. So the 2026 proposed budget does include $1.1 million in pay for performance. It also includes the annual police department step increase at 5%, and it includes the implementation of a new sergeant step program, as well as market increases. This represents the average wage increase across the organization of 3.7%, which is typical for what we bring to you year over year. Additionally, a compensation analysis is budgeted in 2026 for implementation in the 2027 fiscal year. For medical benefits, this is our 4th year of providing benefits through Colorado Employer Benefits Trust, CEBT, which allows us to offer 2 different medical providers, United Healthcare and Kaiser, as options to our employees. And related to that, we are seeing that next year we're going to see about 11% increase to both city and the employees in 2026. And really the reason for that is that ultimately those who are now using United are using it very thoroughly. So people are choosing United and they're using it for a reason. So we're seeing heavy usage, and those costs are, we're seeing those internally as part of that. So I will now pass it over to Patrick to wrap us up.
All right, and we are going to wrap up here in a few minutes here. Cole, go ahead and go to the next slide. Just want to talk about some challenges and opportunities that we are seeing potentially coming forward. But next slide, please. Some of the fiscal challenges that we're looking at today and in the near future, as we've mentioned several times this evening, our general fund total revenues were flat, are flat projected for next year. Expenditures are up about 7% for some major expenses that we talked about, the ERP system upgrades, the cost for the photo radar program, but again, that's offset by revenues and rising compensation. As Ken just mentioned, we still have some major stormwater projects that require large outlays. We don't have a specific revenue source for that. We will be talking about that more next week. Our ARPA funds are fully expended, will be next year. Employee health care costs are projected to rise over 10%. They're continuing. We've been hearing this from everybody. And the word is on the street that they're probably going to continue to rise over the next few years. There's some uncertain federal economic policies being discussed, and along with that, reduction in federal grant programs. So those are some of the challenges we've been seeing, but we do have a lot of opportunities as well. Cole, next slide. You know, we are projecting in the year of 2026 with strong reserves at 17%. That's your minimum, but we also have on top of that the 3% Tabor reserve. And as we mentioned, we are putting away additional $1 million of restricted funding for one-time expenses that may come up. We do have a potential lawsuit, as you I think we've talked to you all about on the Wadsworth project. So we're not sure what that settlement's going to be. So that funding may help with that. Open Space Fund is being boosted by grants. They're always doing a great job with grants, and we have some potential land sales that will help us with some additional projects and sale of other surplus property on Wadsworth, and then also the Fruitdale Lofts project that Marianne mentioned earlier. If that sells, we'll free up just over $1 million in our reserves for unrestricted uses. Sales tax revenues are stabilizing and doing fairly well. We have significant economic growth coming on board in the next couple of years with Clear Creek Crossing. I believe Wadsworth is going to see additional reinvestment once that project's done. So some great opportunities down the line, I think, on revenue growth. We talked about our housing fund, that we're getting our largest tax revenues back into that fund, and I think I put it in the budget message. Maybe we don't have an inclusionary housing policy, as we talked about. We are looking at some impact fees. We haven't done that yet either, but anytime we assist a project with any financial assistance, residential projects, we do ask them to include some affordable units in those developments and/or give us some money for our housing fund. So we have a couple projects that we're working on right now that they decided to give us cash. So over $1 million, probably $1.25 million, I believe, is what we're looking at potentially coming into our housing fund. We'll come back to council with some ideas on how to spend that. We still need to talk about what additional programs you'd like to put into the housing fund. Implementation of AI. You got a little taste of it earlier this evening, but staff is getting pretty tired of me, I think. I talk about it nonstop, but I really do think it is the next step of government and a lot of opportunities to make us more efficient, to allow us to continue providing what we're providing without increasing staffing. I don't think it's a tool to decrease staffing. I do believe, though, at our sales tax base in Wheat Ridge right now, we're at the staffing level that we can sustain and maintain long term. I think with AI technology, again, that podcast I put together seriously took me 30 seconds. We are seeing that a lot of people of our staff are using AI today for smaller things, writing staff memos, but we're cutting time from writing it from 2 hours on a staff memo to 15 minutes. Police department's using it in many different ways. So I'm very excited about the possibility of that helping us increase our efficiency so we can do what public servants like to do, I think, serve the public instead of sitting at your desk writing memos. And then even though with a lot of the grant funding reductions at the federal level, we're still doing a great job, I think, of securing transportation, multimodal grants, Parks and Rec grants, all kinds of different types of grants. So we're doing, I think, a good job with that. And then positioning for the future. We need to continue on our prudent debt management, which we have been doing, and we had a favorable bond issuance in 2024 for 2J, and we have additional capacity in that we are looking at doing the second tranche in probably 2027. That's about another 40 million-ish, I think, for a second round of projects. As we mentioned, we have strong fiscal reserves, and investing in our infrastructure, and we just need to continue to be careful with planning and need it to sustain ourselves beyond some of this COVID era cash infusion that we've seen from the federal government. So with that, our next steps on the budget, we're asking for any questions and consensus tonight on the budget, and we'll bring back the budget for adoption on October 27th, where we are required to hold a public hearing to adopt the budget and then also certify our property tax mill levy. So with that, we are available for questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Patrick, and all the members of the staff. Great presentation. And counselors, you've heard the staff, we took about 15 minutes for the AI version, and we, just spent about an hour and a quarter with the staff version. So, you wonder why are we here? So anyway, we have some questions, and we'll start with Counselor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, everyone, for your presentations tonight. I had a couple questions. The first one was just about how it's going in the court, and there just have been a lot of changes over there, and just making sure that you all are really getting what you need, basically, because I know that it's sort of gone from one way of doing things in about a year to completely different. And I was just wondering if you could just sort of expand on that a little bit more. We have still a new judge who's been in place for about a year, and
Over a year now.
and then I just have one other question after, and just a quick answer would be great. I really just wanted to check in and.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think things are going very well. I have so much support. It's unbelievable. Honestly, unlike anywhere I've ever worked before, it's amazing. If I have any questions about processes or policies, I always have an answer within minutes. If there's changes that are being implemented, the staff has been accommodating and accepting of all of the changes, knowing that it's usually for the best and for forward thinking of what we're going to be going towards. So they're very accepting of it. It's been wonderful. I have no complaints.
Great.
Yes.
Awesome. My second question is for Chief. I got a really, really crazy, no, I'm not, I won't use that word, exuberant phone message from a constituent who was not terribly happy about the new program of speed cameras and things like that. And I really appreciate you emphasizing the public safety. I'm just curious, I decided not to call this person back because they were so angry in the message that they left. Is there anything else we can do about telling people, explaining where the bills are coming from? And I've heard a little bit of questions about misunderstanding, and I had a couple of people ask me, are these real, because of where they were coming, and I know we discussed that. And maybe this is more of a question for staff in general and just how we educate people. But yeah, any comment on that, or things that we could maybe be doing better? This person also, I'm not even sure if they had a license registered in the state, because they were mad that the bill had been sent to Texas and her parents' house. And, it sounded more like an issue of the registration in the car and all of those things, but.
We do get a lot of that on your last point, where folks feel like they're delayed in getting the notification, so they incur some additional penalties. But almost every time it's because they haven't kept up to date with their change of address. We did at the beginning or the inception of this program have a problem with the vendor sending citations to the vehicle owner instead of the leasee of the vehicle. So we straightened that out after a few weeks. We refunded some people where it was appropriate. We tried to create a problem matrix to say, okay, we want to be fair across the board. Who can we absolve from these and who is really trying to game the system? So we worked through those issues. We've had a few repeat offenders, people who are concerned that, you know, their child or their significant other might have gotten 5 tickets in a row. And one of our folks in traffic always tells me there's a solution to that. If you want to use it, chief, tell them to slow down.
Yeah.
So I urge people to slow down. We do have a lot of one-on-one conversations. We're happy to talk to people who are upset, and we do that outreach. As far as where we can do it, Alex has done a good job of posting it on our website, of putting it out there. I'll ask him to continue to do that, to reinforce that message. Other than having a VMS board right at the site of the a variable message board right at the site of the speed camera, I'm not sure we can do a whole lot more. We've done it through the news media. We've done it on our website. We'll continue to try and push those avenues.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think actually the feedback that I'm getting on my phone is that it's actually a good thing, right? It's clearly working. People are slowing down, and I think that's fantastic. Last question. I just had, I'm going to go back to the podcast. You know, there's all these predictions about a flattening income. And I'm kind of curious because as I'm talking to people, it feels like, or people in District 3, there are a lot of permits still being pulled. I feel like there's a lot of optimism for 2026. And I was just wondering, Mr. Goff, if you could just sort of speak to that, because I feel like it might be more optimistic. I realize we have to write a budget on what we think the economics are going to be, but I just was hoping you could speak to that. And that will be my last question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're fairly optimistic, as I mentioned earlier, with the opportunities that we see coming down the path with the initial continuing development. I think we're seeing there was a dip the last couple of years where I think maybe it caught us off guard a little bit. I think it was based on timing of the projects, and we overestimated revenues for use tax, building use tax, and such. So I think we got a little cautious. Lauren maybe can speak to it too, but we are seeing an uptick again in permits. We got quite a few just very recently on some major projects. The American Motel project has submitted for permit. As you all know, the Stack project at 44th and Kipling submitted, well, several months ago now, which kind of came sooner than we thought. I'll let Lauren maybe speak to some of it.
Yeah, I think the hard thing to predict with development is that our high-value permits are about 10% of our permit volume, but 75% of our permit revenue. So if there's a slowdown or speed up, it has an exponential sort of disproportionate effect on our revenues. So yeah, there were a couple of slowdowns, particularly the Stack project and the American Motel project. So we thought those would happen sooner. They didn't. So when some of those big, particularly residential projects are slower or faster, it throws us off, which is then we get conservative the next couple of years.
Okay, but there isn't anything other than that is looming out there, other than the hard to predict piece of that?
Yeah, I don't believe so. And we, we're projecting conservatively, I think, a 3% increase in sales tax for next year. Okay. We are still contributing or sharing the revenues from the Clear Creek Crossing development to help with the public improvements that were needed for that development. Mm-hmm. We haven't reached that cap. We have a $20 million cap. I think we're getting close. So we'll get some. I think sales tax, we're only sharing half. We get to keep half until that $20 million threshold's hit. But there's maybe I'm a little more cautious than I need to be, but I think we've done pretty well. This is my 24th budget here, and we only had to do layoffs the first year I started because the budget was a mess. And you look at places like Aurora right now, Denver. They're making significant cuts, and I don't want to ever have to do that again. So I think being a little bit conservative is a good thing. And I'm there's some uncertainty about the federal level that I'm nervous about. Still, I just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know on a daily basis. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get political, but there's a lot of uncertainty that scares me on what's going to happen. That there could be, who knows what's coming next that could impact us more locally, and I want to be prepared for that. I think this budget keeps us flexible and nimble. That's why we put a little extra money aside. But it's not doom and gloom at all. Total general fund revenues are a little flat, but that's because we had some large development projects. We probably got a little too fat and happy with all the COVID dollars coming in. We just need to kind of steady out again and making sure that we're sustainable long-term.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I feel like we're going into it felt like a solid read. So thank you all for that.
Counselor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentations. I have one question about the 38th Avenue corridor refresh. It's not in the 26 budget. I thought it was going to be in the 26 budget. I saw in the message that it's going to be in the 27 budget, and I just wanted to ask what triggers may happen that it may get removed from the 27 budget.
It's currently out for bid, and we're expecting design bids back on the 24th of October. So we're moving forward with design. We expect design will probably take the majority of 2026 because there is some community engagement in that we want to get with the businesses and ensure that we're getting a project for everyone. But yeah, we're moving forward with it. Apologies if it wasn't in the budget.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we're moving forward with it. This is my last budget of 9, and I won't be here to browbeat everybody about that project, so make sure it's moving forward without me. And then another thing that I wanted to say is, I definitely understand the wanting to like steady up after having kind of some one-time large influx into our budget and, having monies to spend on like pet projects and stuff like that. But I just want us to keep in mind that in 2027, it might be a year to start looking at being a little more bold. When we are budgeting at a 17% and it comes in at a 31% actual, I mean, that's money that we can spend on the taxpayers, right? So spending the taxpayers' dollars on the taxpayers. But one thing I wanted to ask is, and if you'll remember the slide with the orange and blue columns in it, the orange, what was projected, the blue, what actually came in. I want to ask if I could get support for adding from our general budget $3,000 for the Wheat Ridge Football Department. And I actually did the math. It would be $2,936.64 equals 0.0055% of the total amount of our general fund of the $53,393,375. So while you're making comments on the budget, if you could please let me know how you feel about that ask.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. The first kind of question I have is piggybacking on Patrick's comment about the uncertainty. Is there any way that, my question is there a plan B as far as like, call it I know we have the million, we have the other funds, but if there's something that you could evaluate, I don't know, like in 3 months, it seems like right now things are moving very quickly, or in 6 months where we could take a look and just see like how we are doing. Are we doing what we're projecting? I'm not sure how it's currently being processed, but I think right now there's so much volatility that every morning I wake up and I'm just not sure in how that's all going to affect us in the next several months.
Yeah, and we typically do a mid-year budget update for council, and I think even in maybe the last couple of budgets, we kind of put together a list and even mentioned to you, it's like if things look better, we may come back with the list to add some things that we couldn't get in. So I think that's something we'll do again. To speak to Ms. Hoppy's comments about, and I know we've had a history of that. She's right. We budget, and our ending balance is usually quite a bit higher. I think why it was so much higher this last year is because we got almost $1 million in audit tax revenue that we did not know we would get. If we didn't get that, we would be closer to 20%, I think. But yeah, we can do as I said, we're trying to stay very flexible and nimble, so we'll keep an eye on it. I think we have another few years of uncertainty at the national level, and we'll see if things smooth out over the next year. And, I focus more locally. I think luckily, we've always done really well locally compared to the national level. And our sales tax base is just getting stronger. But, if there's any major changes at any level, that could be impacted. But yeah, we can make adjustments as we go.
Thank you. And then the next question is going to be to the chief. So is there anything in the budget for future red light cameras?
We wouldn't budget for those because we never pay for them, so it's not a budget impact, but we did approve the ordinance ahead of time to handle red light cameras as well as speed cameras, and we just did a study for both of those. So we have some locations we're looking hard at, and we're just looking to see if it makes sense for us to move forward on those. So yes, our initial idea was to, let's get the system moving, let's get the courts figuring out how to deal with that, and then let's evaluate the program, not on a financial basis, but on a public safety basis. And so far, it seems to be really having an impact on traffic, so we're looking to move it further.
Thank you. To clarify that a little bit, it won't have a negative impact on the budget. We'll have to show it in the budget, as we mentioned to you tonight. So if we add more cameras, there will be more expense for the company to verify the tickets, but the revenues will go up. So we'll have to amend the budget, but it's not really a budget impact.
I don't know if that makes sense, because it didn't at first to me, but to look up to find the people who are violators, wherever they may be located in Texas or wherever they used to live, that's the company's charge to us once they put the equipment in and we've paid the lease for the year.
Okay, thank you. And then on the adding more budget to the community funds, I think, I guess, are we asking, I guess the conversation is, the amount is small, but is this the appeal process that, where everybody comes in and they say, I wish I was on it and I didn't get the money, so can I have some more? And I know they are tough decisions that we've, for better or for worse, council before I got in, decided that council specifically was not going to be making those decisions, that we put that in charge of a committee, and the committee made those decisions. And I know that last time Councilmember Larson, had mentioned something that he wished was in there, but it was not. Those are tough decisions. I think going forward, if we wanted to, increase by something, I'd be in favor of that. I'm not sure that, I'm not necessarily 100% against it. I'm just questioning that, are we just going to open up a can of worms that every time somebody comes and says, I wish I would have got some more money, that are they kind of circumventing that process that we've had this committee do? And I'd love to hear other council members kind of weigh in. It's not a lot of money, but I just want to keep the integrity of the process, if we're going to keep that, or if council should just be the ones making that decision and we have discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're, just for your information, we're trying to make sure we have Councilor Hulteen and Councilor Larson tied into our screen so we can see if they have any questions. But in the meantime, our next question is from Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, my questions have been answered. I wanted to compliment the staff. I think it was a fantastic budget presentation. A couple of things that stood out to me, I think Mary Ann said it, that we're not one of those organizations where if a department has a budget and they get to the end of the year, they feel that they need to spend it. They can give it back and re-ask for something for the following year. That's one of the most responsible things that I've heard in a long time from any large organization, including private organizations, that we're not wasting money at the end of the year. We're being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money, and that's incredibly important. Everybody gets tired of hearing me talk about like old days, but I remember stories of my grandfather going and literally shaking shovels in the parks department because they wanted new shovels. And he'd go, no, this one's fine. This one's fine. You don't need that, right? You'd go drive the cars and make sure that they were still fine. So we're being fiscally responsible and pushing the city forward, and that's really great. I agree with what Councilor Ohm just said, but I do believe that our Wheat Ridge High School football team has, well, one, I was a Wheat Ridge High School football player at one point, and my dad was the president of the quarterback club for a long time. But I saw what it did for a lot of the kids on the team, especially the kids that don't have those resources. And to be able to help those kids out, I'm for 0.05% of our budget, $3,000. I think it's totally worth it. So I'm going to support Councilor Hoppy on moving forward with that. And I just wanted to real quickly, we didn't talk about it very much, but as a representative of the business district, and I worked with Paige with Local Works on this, the $75,000 for the Wadsworth Recovery Program. That's a grant program that would go to the businesses on Wadsworth or maybe a quarter mile off of Wadsworth, businesses like Manola's, businesses, those restaurants and stuff that are there, to go between $5,000 and $10,000 to basically spend on what they need to recover from the Wadsworth construction. So that would be marketing, advertising, signage, even getting consultants in to work on their business systems, whatever they need to not pay back what maybe they've lost over the last couple of years, but to move forward to make sure that they're successful moving forward. So I hope that everybody will support that as well, because I think that's a worthwhile thing that we did after COVID. We had a lot more money from the federal government. We had the ARPA money that we were able to put into a business recovery program, and this is a smaller version of that, just specifically for this this targeted area, and I hope it'll help those businesses recover. So thank you, and thank you again to the staff for a fantastic presentation and for taking our values and really showing it financially. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that Councilor Hulteen has some comments online.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, as always, budget study session, perhaps my favorite. I'm sorry I'm not there in person with everybody. The couple of things just high level I want to mention. I think we've always done an outstanding job with the budget, both the narrative, but really being able to tie the priorities and goals and how the funds are actually directly tied to, what we and our community have said is important. So I'd like that accountability throughout. And I also really appreciate the update to the community profile this year. I remember I learned a lot about Wheat Ridge the first time by reading the budget, probably in 2015, the city profile and the budget was actually how I learned the most about the city at one point. So the update to the community profile, I think, is exciting to see, more about our history, but where we are. Couple other things I want to just call out. Several of my questions were actually answered in staff presentations. So thank you, staff, for being ahead of my questions. I'm really happy to see that in this year's budget, we've got funding prioritized for the acquisition of school properties associated with Colorstrand and Wilmore Davis. That's something that District 2 and District 3 really are constituents. It's really important. So I'm glad to see that that's in this year's budget. I had a couple of questions, but they mostly got answered. I think the thing that just continues for me to be really obvious, even though we've got 2J funds coming in, we're really competitive regionally for investments in our corridors and sidewalks and bike lanes through competitive grant funding. The need for us to come up with our own dedicated CIP funding is something that is going to be, in the not so distant future, increasingly difficult for us to do and not just depend on the general funds. So just really wanting to prioritize in my 2 years that I've left on council, I hope that's something that we can figure out how to get more permanent funding for that. And then Ken, I think you mentioned this briefly, but I saw in the budget the increase to the neighborhood transportation management program jumping up significantly in 2027. Do you have any more details on that, or is that something that's really in the works that you guys are planning on that will come back to us?
I think there's two components to it. I think one, we're getting more requests, and two, we want to look at alternatives as well, and just to, be able to look at those in a different way besides, just throwing down the speed hump. So you'll see on 29th, when that project gets done, we're adding some chicanes, but we're just using striping to try to narrow down the lanes and just, do a different traffic calming measure. So again, those are the things that I understand is, the amount of requests and other alternatives.
Great. As we get closer to that, I think 3 or 4 years ago, we took a look, maybe it's 3 years ago, at the program that's associated with that. But I think, there's historically problematic streets that maybe could get prioritized as part of that 2027. So that's next year budget, but I just want to make a note of that. So then there's a couple things that have been put forward for opinions on support. So I definitely support Councilmember Stites' proposal around supporting the Wadsworth businesses as they recover from the impact of the construction. So I really appreciate that forward thinking. And I know businesses in my district were really grateful for that support. And I know it's a hard one, but I really believe strongly in the process with our community grants. And I think it's really hard because our community, that committee actually has to make hard choices around our schools, and we have a lot of great programs at the schools. But there's a lot of people we said no to this year, not us, but the committee, decided to award funding to, and some that didn't make it. So I'm going to stick with the integrity of that process. I'd rather stick with that. But I would be really open to next year, a different process to help ensure that the programs at our partner schools are getting the funding that they really need to make sure that those students are getting the enrichment and things that I know I certainly enjoyed while I was at high school. So those are my 2 thoughts. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I have Councilor Larson, please, joining us online.
And thank you, Mayor. I sincerely apologize for not being able to attend the meeting tonight. I picked up one of the nasty sort of common cold viruses going around. And typically when I get one of these, it goes right to my larynx, and it creates some difficulty speaking sometimes, which around the household really isn't a bad thing. I guess my wife really doesn't mind that much. I was very impressed with the presentation tonight. Having crossed the $100 million threshold, I guess that puts us up in the pantheon of municipalities around the metro area. I'm very impressed with the way that we've been able to make the most of the things that we do have coming in, particularly when it was pointed out that our revenue streams, including the sales tax and traffic fines and building revenue and the rec center fees and looks like interest income, have all done what they're supposed to do and provided the city with the revenue support that we count on. There were a couple of questions I had, most of which were answered either during the presentation or later. I would support if we need to go back to the Wheat Ridge High School folks and see if we can scrape out a couple of bucks for that program. And I also very strongly support Council Member Hulteen's suggestion about the capital improvement project fund. Finding some solid legs for that fund would be, I think, would be most beneficial going down the road. And I also support Council Mayor Pro Tem Stites on the Wadsworth sort of business support improvement once all that construction wraps up. The other thing, though, that to me is the one of the more glaring omissions from the budget is anything devoted toward the businesses and residences and the general 44th Avenue structure. It just seems to get neglected one year after the next. We've done studies out there. There are plenty of things that could be done along 44th Avenue to improve that stretch of highway, both along in terms of traffic improvement, in terms of business opportunities, and some of the things that might be done to just turn 44th Avenue into a strong commercial and residential corridor that would support the city. Other than that, I want to compliment staff and all of the hours that went into producing this budget document, and I do support going forward with the document as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, staff. I thought the Wheat Ridge wallet was especially clever and appreciated. Just the budget brief in regards to where our property taxes go, how we generate revenue, where it's budgeted for the city's purposes. I thought that was really well done, alongside the community profile and matching our priorities and our strategic priorities for 2026. I do have a couple of questions. One, so this November, we're being asked about the elected treasurer and clerk position. I don't foresee us needing any kind of staffing in 2026 unless we need to transition, if it's going to be a hired position. Has there been any conversations around like having adequate staffing now to meet those needs, or what does that look like?
Yeah, we believe we have adequate staffing today with council support a couple of years ago when we brought on a new senior deputy city clerk. So that position's filled, and we have Honorina, our another senior deputy city clerk, or no, it's Margie. You still have Margie's nameplate up filter. Senior clerk. Yeah, we feel good in that position. And then the treasurer position as well. We believe those investment duties is primarily what the treasurer does, can be absorbed or using some consulting services to help with that. So we don't believe staffing is required.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as Parks and Rec, with Prospect and Anderson having been the most recently redeveloped, if you will, can you just talk about the mill and overlay project and then the playground at Prospect? The east one wasn't replaced back in?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a replacement schedule for our playgrounds, and we try to kind of go in order of, when they need to be replaced. So the other playground that's on the list is Louise Turner, but we're funding it this year actually, instead of next year. So I didn't mention it in that, but the mill and overlay is just parking lot repairs that are needed in both of those parks. And we were looking at Jefferson County Open Space Trail Grant partnership program just to supplement the dollars to make them go further for us. So.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for this presentation. I know this was probably a lot of work, as it is every year, and I think y'all just knocked it out of the park. I really like this format. Similar to what Councilor Dozeman said, just the way that this was kind of laid out. We kind of took a deep dive into each area, and I think that really kind of helped me, helped us. So kudos to that. I really like that format. Just a couple of small questions, most of which my questions have been answered also, but and these are, I'm just going to kind of skip around here. Parks and Rec, with Sun Camp, is there tuition assistance available for Sun Camp for a certain percentage of applicants?
We have that for all of our recreation programs, including Sun Camp.
Okay, that's right. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Let's see. The other question, well, I guess this is more of, I appreciate Councilor Hulteen bringing up the NTMP, the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program. I'm excited to see that kind of its next iteration. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there for folks to have more input. We've had several folks in District 1 go through that process. And I actually just talked to some folks this past weekend at Panorama Park, who were very thankful for the speed humps on Teller, just south of 29th. And their words exactly where we appreciate what's going on in the city, and especially the attention that's been given to calming traffic, curtailing some speeding, and that's been a kind of a recurring theme, at least of late for me. I think that, let me just make sure. One more thing with staffing, Patrick, we have openings, 3 openings, deputy, city manager, and public works. Is that correct?
We do. We have interim.
Interim, yes.
Folks in those seats right now. So we are going through the interim process and looking at those next steps separately. Public Works is a little ahead of that game. We're still working on Ally Scheck's departure. We're looking at it more holistically, as Mary Ann mentioned earlier. It's always a great opportunity to, when there's a vacancy, to look at do we need those same positions in the same scope and the same roles, and that's what we're doing. Kind of a broader scope here. And so we'll have some decisions made by the first year, probably in both roles.
Sure, that's
Yep.
great. And then certainly no reflection on the job that either of you are doing. I was just more curious on the budget and how the particular salaries are.
Probably actually some savings
Yeah.
in both departments.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, to follow up on Counselor Hoppy's request, I would be in favor of that, with the caveat that we do kind of look at that process for next year. And some of the things that Counselor Hulteen brought up around just looking at funding for schools. So that I think that we've talked several times about just how that, program could be added to a little bit. And then support for Mayor Pro Tem Stites. I love that idea, the program for the Wadsworth businesses. So yes, absolutely. And were those the only 2 that we're getting feedback on? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate this.
Thank you. Counselor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to attempt to craft a consensus. Before I do, though, I just want to clarify that of the $120,000 that was already in the budget for the Wheat Ridge Business District, 70 of that is going to that program that Mayor Pro Tem Stites was speaking of. So I'm glad that it is heartily appreciated because it's happening already. So it's already in there. And so for our 2026 proposed budget, I would like to ask for a consensus to find $3,000 from the general fund budget for the Wheat Ridge football team. The Fighting 49s, I think, is their 43s. Fighting 43s is their official nonprofit name. And with that one single addition that we moved the proposed budget to final adoption.
2, 3, 4, 5. And do we have can we get an online yay or nay from Counselor Larson and Counselor Hulteen?
That's a yay.
Yeah.
Okay, the yays have it, so we will see consensus on that. Okay, are there any additional questions or comments from council on the budget process? So I guess it, really the AI was probably the most efficient process. AI did not take questions, but then the council was not really brief on their questions. So I think it was an average of 3 questions per counselor, so we're right on schedule. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for their work in making tonight a successful night. I think we've got a great budget, we've got a great team, we've got a great council, and more importantly, we have a great city and great citizens in that city. So I think we're really making great progress along in the best city in Colorado. So we are going to be back here at a city council meeting 1 week from tonight, correct? And we have
and a special study session.
and a special study session. We have a couple of public hearings coming up.
We do
Meeting,
next
I think
week.
we do. I'm not going to say what they are, so we'll
remember.
keep you in suspense for another week. But we generally go to, let's see, I don't even have my thing open.
Staff
You got the
reports.
staff report? or
We
staff
don't have
reports?
anything
Yeah,
else. I don't know if
reports
staff
tonight?
have any
You know,
reports.
we're 15 minutes over the 2-hour timeline.
All right, so we have nothing.
That we need to take a break. So are there any brief Counselor Dozeman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dominic Breton asked me to announce the Jeffco Backyard Barbecue Cook-Off, which is Saturday, October 18th from 12 to 4 p.m. at Anderson Park, rain or shine. So please come out for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Understand Counselor Larson has an item?
Oh, real quickly, Mayor, I just want to thank the folks that came out to Boyd's Crossing Park, which is one of the wonderful parks in District 4. Everybody should go out and look. It is a wonderful park. Come on, bring your dog. Anyway, we were there Saturday morning. We had a few people show up. The weather was perfect, and it turned out to be a very nice day. And I want to thank the city staff and Parks and Rec for providing the tents and tables and all the good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other elected officials' reports before we adjourn our meeting? Seeing none, we will.
Mayor, I've got my hand up.
Okay, Counselor Hulteen, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be quick. So Councilmember Weaver mentioned a call. I think we all got a message from this young woman who was not happy with our automated enforcement. I did call her back. So happy to talk offline with you individually about that. But one constructive thing that came from it was she said several times that she just had a hard time verifying the legitimacy of the ticket. And she was just worried because there's so many online scams. So one suggestion she had, and I just want to share here, is if we could somewhere on our website just show what the citation looks like, so that people who get it, who may be worried because there's so many scams that come through the mail, that they could go to our website and actually see what one of the citations looks like, in part because they're coming out of California, even though they have our city logo on it. So just a suggestion I wanted to share here. And then I closed the conversation with her, thanking her for not speeding anymore in our community. So thank you, everyone.